All right, I had to come on here and talk about something, and it deals with the Fani Willis soap opera that's been taking place down in Georgia. Now, everybody knows that she gave the person that she was having an affair with the lead prosecutor position, which, if nothing else, is unethical. I don't know if it constitutes a crime, but she's being heavily persecuted for it. Anyway, that is not the extent of what we're looking at for this case down in Georgia. What just came to light in the last couple of days is absolutely mind-blowing. When you look at all of these cases being brought against a person who's running for president, not just running for president, they are the lead person for the opposing party for the current administration, the opposing party. Now, it has just come to light that Fani Willis, as well as Nathan Wade, have both met with White House officials, and Fani Willis met with Kamala Harris before Trump got indicted. Now, this is a state case. She's a Fulton County district attorney in Georgia. And she met with Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States in Biden's administration, to talk about what? This case that is being brought against their political opponent? You know, the Democrats like to throw around the word Hitler a lot. They call Putin, they just recently called Putin Hitler. Biden did. And they love to call Trump Hitler, even though there's really nothing that he's done to constitute that. Here you have the Democrats looking like, acting like, everything that the Nazis did to take power in Germany. We're seeing them doing these things, trying to arrest your political opponents, using the court system as a weapon. This is no different than how Hitler took power in Germany. And by the way, one of the first things that he did was he attacked his own building, the Reichstag. It was the political headquarters of his party. He attacked it himself and blamed it on his political opponents to go after them. Now, the Democrats like to run in their media that January 6th was orchestrated by Donald Trump. But they forget that they only make up half of this country, because the other half of this country doesn't buy a single word of that. The other half of this country believes 100% that January 6th was their false flag. We know that people were dressed up as Trump supporters. Just because somebody's wearing something that says Trump, it doesn't mean he's a Trump supporter. We know that the FBI was infiltrated into the groups. It's no different than the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping attempt where the FBI set it up and executed the entire thing and then try to blame a group of people for it? Where did that go in the media? So now you have the left. What the heck is going on with these people? Anything to win an election? Bringing the House at Donald Trump. That case that just happened in New York. Unconstitutional judgment. Now think about the case in New York for a minute. Judge Ergeron, or however you say that guy's name, decides that Trump owes $350 million. For what? Let me get this straight. There's a contract going on between two entities. One guy's trying to borrow money and says, I have this property. Another entity is going to loan him the money. But now here's the thing. You see, the Bank of New York, I believe it was the Bank of New York, who was dealing with Trump at the time, they went after Trump. They said he falsified those documents. But here's the crazy thing. Trump can put whatever he wants on there. He has no obligation to say anything is anything. He can turn them over a piece of paper that says that it's 5 million square feet. It doesn't matter. The bank is on the hook. They're the ones who are on the hook. Why? Because they have shareholders. And they have a fiduciary obligation to those shareholders to ensure that every deal that they do is going to benefit those shareholders. Why didn't the state of New York come after the Bank of New York? The Bank of New York would have been the ones who actually would have broken the law, if any law was broken. Why didn't they come after the Bank of New York? Why did they go after Trump? For obvious reasons. Look at the country that we're living in right now. When are the people going to stop waiting for the politicians who have done absolutely nothing about any of this? They've done nothing about the election that was completely rigged. They used COVID and changed the rules. The people who changed the rules did not have the authority to change the rules. The Secretary of the State runs the elections. They don't make the election rules. That is done by the state's Congress. The Secretary of State is there to enforce those rules, not to create new rules. Especially to create rules where nothing can be tracked. All of these ballots that were coming in, everybody saw it. Half the country does not buy that election was on the up and up. It doesn't matter how many times they say on the news, in their media, it was the safest election in the history. Why is it then that the elections that we just had, you had Democrats running against Democrats in their primaries, using the same tactics that we used against Donald Trump in the 2020 election? Those go to court, and what do the judges say? Oh, it's fraud. It gets called fraud then, but not in the presidential election. Same exact tactics. Same exact tactics. And they're calling to have the elections redone. but not when it is the presidential election. The judges did not want to make the call on that. They didn't want to get involved on that. Even back in 2000 with the Bush election, that got pushed all the way up to the Supreme Court. The country that we're living in right now, everybody out there calling themselves patriots. What is a patriot? Look at what the founding fathers built. They built it because they stood up to people like we have in office right now. And it's not just Democrats. There's a lot of Republicans just as bad. Mitch McConnell does not belong in the Senate, let alone leading the Republican Party. You have people who are making themselves rich. You know, everybody wonders why rich men north of Richmond blew up the way that it did. Everybody can relate to it. Didn't matter if you like that kind of music or don't like that kind of music, or if you're black or white or Hispanic. It spoke to people because of what's going on in this country right now. These wars, Ukraine, everybody knows it. The media has lost all credibility. All they do is lie. That's it. All they do is lie. Who are they lying for? Well, let's see. When COVID came out, they lied for what? They lied for the government. But why did they lie for the government? The government was telling them to. For what reason? So that pharma can make money? Getting you a vaccine they knew wasn't going to work. And now what does it do? Now the vaccine is like all these people have been dropping dead. This is not something that politicians are going to fix, people. This is something that is going to take, look at what's going on around the world. Go on to X and put in civil war. It's not just in this country. It's all over the world right now. They're dividing the entire world. But there are those who are, and I'm going to say, soft-minded. They're the ones who are listening to the propaganda machine that is this global system being set up all over the planet. You know, people think that what happened to Donald Trump here in the United States with January 6th being a false flag. Were there Trumpers there? Absolutely there were Trumpers there. But look at what happened when they released all the video. They had to release several of the people that they've got in prison. Political prisoners we have in this country right now. If you were one of those political prisoners and you were inside knowing that you were wronged, how many people in this country did this administration go after? Why? Because they were Trump supporters. They used January 6th to go after them. A journalist for the Blaze Media was just arrested. He was reporting on the event. This is the country that we're in right now. This is not a country that is going to be fixed by a politician. And if Donald Trump does get in there, when he gets in there, he is going to have to become what they fear the most in order to fix this country, in order to fix everything that's going on.
I've fought against Republicans most of my life. Bush, Cheney Republicans. Republicans who were starting wars all over the place to benefit the military-industrial complex. And yeah, when you look at George Walker Bush and how as soon as he got elected, May of 2000, ABC News comes out with an article. And what is the article on? It just so happens to be on a CIA op from 1962 called Operation Northwoods. If you don't know what it is, go look it up. I'm not going to get into the whole Bush ordeal right now. But I spent a good chunk of my life fighting against Republicans. I'm not a Republican. I'm somebody who looks out at this system and sees all the garbage that we allow. And I say we allow because we are the people. This country was established for us, not for these politicians. It was established for us on the basis that we would be a God-fearing nation. The Democrats are throwing around the word Christian nationalist as if they have no idea what the history of this country is. We just posted a whole bunch of quotes on America's Tribune. There's our socials on the bottom. People, something has to be done. And it's not going to be these politicians. The Republicans sit there and what are they doing? They sit in their meetings and they sit the House of Representatives and the Senate, and what are they doing? Writing bills that are never going to get passed because nobody can come together? And what are we doing? Just watching it like a football game? Look at all over the world right now, there's protests going on. Farmers. Look at the farmer protests. This is our food. What are they doing to the farmers out there? Nothing is going to change until the people realize that they're the ones with the power to change it. That's the way our founding fathers set this up. They set it up so that if ever the people of this country saw themselves in a situation like we see ourselves in today, they gave us the ability to change it. Not with our vote. These people need to be arrested. They need to be charged. These people that are using their power and influence for financial gain, sending all of our taxpayer money and using it to start wars, to line their pockets. That is what Ukraine is about. Lining their pockets. And they're all about trying to get the next bill passed to send more money over there. Why? They pass the bill. The money gets sent over to Ukraine. Ukraine turns around and buys some of our weapons from our corporations, which lines our corporations' pockets, right? That's a good thing. And those corporations then turn around and make hefty donations to those politicians' campaigns. And it's not just the donations that they make to the campaigns. It's the promises of what happens to the politician after they get out of office. George Herbert Walker Bush found himself on the board of directors of an investment company called the Carlyle Group. If you don't know who they are, you should probably go look them up, because they had, in my opinion, in my research, they had something to do with 9/11. George Bush was going all over the planet getting people to invest in the Carlyle Group before 9/11. And what did the Carlyle Group invest in? They weren't located in New York like every other investment company. They were located in Washington, D.C. And who did they load their board up with? People in the Defense Department? That's strange. And then what? Bush is over there. They're investing in defense contracts when there's no war. There was no wars going on in 2000. Not until the towers were hit, with his son being president, and a plan that looks exactly like the one that was written by his father in 1962, and a plan to invade Cuba. The politicians are angry. They're trying everything they can to get rid of Donald Trump. Why? Because Trump was an X factor. He came out of left field. In order for Donald Trump to get into office in the first place, it was more than improbable. And I think none of the politicians ever saw it coming. In order to win the Republican nomination in 2016, he had to beat the most formidable family in the Republican Party, the Bush family. He had to beat John Ellis Bush. His acronym is JEB. He had to beat Jeb Bush. And he did. And he won the Republican nomination in 2016. Surprised everybody. Beating the Bush family in the Republican Party. He wasn't a Republican, but he ran as a Republican because he didn't think he could beat Hillary Clinton in the Democrat Party. So he ran as a Republican because he thought they were a bunch of clowns, and he was right. They were a bunch of clowns. So there he was as a Republican nominee, beating the top family in the Republican Party. And then who does he square off against? Hillary Clinton, the top family in the Democrat Party? And he beat her. And all hell broke loose ever since. Lie after lie after lie. We saw these politicians take control of everything. Now, whether you believe that these people created COVID in a lab, which I believe they created COVID in a lab. I definitely don't believe that it was spawned in a wet market. But look at all the lies that they've told us. Dr. Fauci sat there lying to everybody every single day. Why? To protect his ass. Why was it protecting his ass? Because he didn't want anybody in this country to find out, or in the world to find out, that his organization funded the creation of the virus. The question is, was it leaked accidentally? Or was it leaked to test the world? I'm going to leave it with this. When are the people going to realize that they hold the power? There's no politician that you're ever going to elect that is going to be able to do anything. There's a large, that Eisenhower called it the military-industrial complex. He said it is taking control of our government. And now we look today, and what do we have? Forces controlling everything from every angle. The CIA, the FBI, these organizations that people used to trust, they used to love them. Not anymore. We don't trust our media. We don't trust our government. We don't trust our intelligence agencies. We don't trust our elections. When are the people going to get out in the streets? When are they going to do? When are they going to have the courage to do what the people who started this country for us? Think of the courage that they had when they stood up to the British. And here we are, loaded with technology all around us. We have all the information. We can see through their lies. And we do nothing. The breads and circuses. Breads and circuses control us. Who won the basketball game? Who won the football game? Who won the baseball game? Soccer? Hockey? All year long. As long as they keep you fed and entertained, they know they can do anything they want. And you'll never rise up against them. Until people decide to get uncomfortable. Until they decide to put their children's future ahead of their own. This country is going to continue going down a path that is going to lead to everybody being enslaved. A lot like what happened during the pandemic. Everybody talks about Russia, right? And communism. And you worry about communism because why? Let's see. Russia had 400 people arrested for things they said on social media, right? So we look at that and we're like, and in a communist society, you can't say what you think. They arrested 400 people. Of course, stuff like that makes its rounds all the way through our media. But what our media doesn't tell you is that same year that Russia had 400 people arrested, the left-leaning politicians in Britain arrested 3,300 people for things they said on their social media accounts. And you go back to
I think it was like 2018, that Chelsea Russell, who was arrested in Liverpool after her friend died, lost her best friend in a car accident. And after she lost her friend, she went on his Instagram and posted a song with lyrics. And the lyrics, it was a rap song. And in the lyrics had the use of the N word. She was arrested for that. She was arrested, prosecuted, found guilty, tagged with a GPS locator device, had a 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. curfew, had to do 500 hours of community service, and had to pay a fine. Is that the world that you guys want your children growing up in? Your grandchildren? Is that the world that our generation is going to leave for them? That's on us. You know, grandfathers fought in World War II. And here we are, sitting on our hands while the Hitlers of the world do what they want. When is there going to be a revolution in the people? Wake up. Ditch the propaganda. Both sides. You're being lied to. We're all being lied to. It's time to reset. Reset this whole system. And they're not going to like it. But it's time to bring it back to what it was. What our founding fathers started this out as. We opened the doors to everybody then. Immigration wasn't a very big issue.